Biblically Centered Kids.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. Today is a beautiful June 7th, 2024, and I'm your host for today's episode, Mr. Johnny. And like I just said, again, happy Friday. I mean, who's ready for a fantastic weekend? 14 days until summer, so you know the countdown is continuing. Anyone out there a snow cone fan? Have you been able to get yourself a snow cone yet this season? It's definitely warm enough for them. What's your favorite flavor? Mine is banana. I know I'm a little oddball on that one, but I just really enjoy banana flavored things. Now, on the opposite side of things, what's your least favorite snow cone flavor? And it has to be a real flavor. My least favorite flavor is grape. I actually dislike most grape-flavored things, but I do enjoy real grapes. And speaking of sweets, I hope your sweet tooths are polished and ready because we have a sweet holiday today. Today is National Donut Day.
Donut Day.
At one point or another in our lives, we found ourselves craving a donut. And when we think about it, it's really not a surprise that this treat hits the spot. They pair exceptionally well with, a tasty hot beverage. But they can also be a quick snack or something to accompany a long conversation. But most of all, there's a donut out there for all of us. From traditional glaze to a more daring recipe like, a maple bacon donut.
Whoa!
The origins of National Donut Day are traced back to the Salvation Army's involvement in World War I. During this time, a group of volunteers were dispatched to the front lines with the mission of providing comforting meals for the troops. They soon found out that donuts were an effective way to provide food while navigating the difficulties of cooking in those very dire circumstances. These volunteers were later be known as Donut Lassies, and even at times they would use their war helmets as a utensil to fry up 7 donuts at a time. Whew. In 1938, National Donut Day was established as a way to honor the members of the Salvation Army that came to the aid of soldiers during World War I. Nowadays, National Donut Day is widely celebrated on the first Friday of June, and many donut shops are known to be giving them out for free, or at least some discounts, which gives you a good reason to take some time out of the day to enjoy this holiday. So, I don't know, maybe have your parents look up, are there any donut deals going on in your town today? Do you have a favorite donut shop in your town? There are, of course, the big chains out there, the Krispy Kremes, the Dunkins, and so on. But I just think there's something special about finding that little local donut shop that just can't be duplicated in the big guys. So, I'd encourage you, if you haven't before, see what your town has for local donuts and maybe try one out next time. All right, now it's time to move on to our quiz for the week. Are you ready for Quiz Day Friday? I'm going to be asking a series of multiple choice questions, some easy, some maybe a little more difficult, but all of them require us to listen well. Are you ready to listen and answer? Do you have your thinking caps on? Because I'm getting mine on right now. All right, here we go with question 1. This week, we're talking all about virtue W. What does virtue W say? A. We wisely be still and listen when our parents are talking. B. We wisely steward all God has entrusted to us, being faithful to use it responsibly. C. We wisely seek help from others when we are faced with challenges. Well, if you've been listening this week, I bet this one might be easy for you, right? Because it's B. We wisely steward all God has entrusted us, being faithful to use it responsibly. All right, question number 2. If you can remember all the way back to Monday, we mentioned a verse in 1 Peter. 1 Peter 4:10 to be exact. And in this verse it says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to what? We should use our gifts to what? A, serve others. B, make money. C, compete in local gift wrapping competitions. Yeah, I know, C was kind of silly. Although I bet Miss Danika could do pretty well in a gift wrapping competition. However, I would not. All right, so it's not C. So is it to serve others or to make money? Well, that's right. The answer is A, to serve others. 1 Peter 4:10 tells us, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. This means that God has given each of us special gifts and talents, and we should be using them to help others and to serve God. Question 3. In our Old Testament story this week, the widow in our story was instructed by Elisha to gather vessels from her neighbors and then fill the vessels with what? A, soil and sand. B, pebbles. C, oil. A, soil and sand. B, pebbles. C, oil. That's right, it's C, oil. Elisha said to her, go outside, borrow empty vessels from all your neighbors, get as many as you can. Then go inside your house with your sons and shut the door. Pour oil into all the vessels, and when each one is full, set it aside. And then we know the widow, she did exactly what he said. Her and her sons went around to all the neighbors, borrowing all the vessels they could find. And then they went to their house, shut the door, just like Elisha said, and then the widow began to pour oil from her jar into the first vessel. And to her amazement, the oil, well, it kept flowing. And soon the first vessel was full, so she set it aside, and she filled another, and then another, and then another. And then her sons, they just kept bringing vessels to her. She kept pouring until every single one they had was full. And finally, she said to her son, bring me another. And he said, well, that was the last one. And at that moment, the oil stopped flowing. So the widow, she was super excited. She went back to Elisha and told him what had happened. So Elisha told her, well, go, sell the oil, pay off your debts, and then you and your sons can live off the rest. And I love this story, and I know we've talked about it, but this story, it shows us an amazing example of stewardship. The widow, she had very little. All she had was a small jar of oil. But with God's help and her being faithful in her actions to follow the instructions she was given, she was able to turn that small amount into something much greater. She used what she had wisely, following Elisha's instructions carefully. Because she did this, God provided for her needs in a miraculous way. All right, question 4. All right, so in our New Testament story this week, we discussed the parable of the talents. And in this story, the master who distributed the talents was not happy with the third servant. Now, why was he not happy? Was it A, because he lost the talent completely? B, he buried the talent in the ground? C, he sold the talent for a bag of magic beans? Well, we know the story isn't involving a giant and a beanstalk, so it's not C. So is it A, he lost the talent completely, or B, he buried the talent in the ground? That's right, it's B. He just buried the talent in the ground. The important thing is how we use our talents and gifts that God gives us. The first two servants in this story, they were good stewards. They multiplied it. They took what the master gave them, and they worked hard, and they were able to make more. They were faithful and responsible, and of course that made their master happy. The third servant, however, not a good steward. He was afraid, and he chose to hide his talent instead of letting it be used or using it himself. He didn't even try to do something small with it, like maybe even putting it in a bank or anything so it can grow interest. But because he didn't use it at all, he didn't use it wisely, he lost it. Okay, last question, question 5. This week, as you know, we've been talking a lot about stewardship. In the parable of the talents, God wants us to be like the first two servants and use the talents, time, and treasures God gives us wisely. Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with little can be," what? A, able to do anything they want in this life. B, trusted with anything they can imagine. C, trusted with more. So in Luke 16:10 it says, whoever can be trusted with little can be A, able to do anything they want in this life. B, trusted with anything they can imagine. C, trusted with more. Well, that's right. The answer is C. We know that when we show God we are faithful in the little things, He can trust us with more. So my encouragement to you kiddos is to get really good at those little things, the small things, the little chores around the house, the choice to have a good attitude even when you're not getting your way, so on and so forth. And you know what? You'll be amazed what God can do in you and what He can do through you. Well, how'd you do on the quiz today? Did you enjoy it? It's a beautiful Friday, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. We thank you so much for listening to the episode so far this week. Be sure to listen each day to our podcast and tune in tomorrow for a fun game day episode with Miss Danika, and then I'll be back on Sunday to lead you in a draw along. All right, guys, until next time.